federal criminal conviction and its long-term consequences in the UAE. Being convicted of a federal crime in the UAE has immediate and long-term effects for anyone who's facing the punishments imposed by the country's penal code. The three categories of federal crimes in the UAE. Federal Decree Law No. 31 of 2021, the newly introduced penal code of the UAE Penal Code, has replaced the existing Federal Law No. 3 of 1987. The UAE Penal Code categorizes federal crimes into three categories: infractions, misdemeanors, and felonies. The punishments for each category of federal crime. Infractions. The punishments may include confinement for a 24-hour term and may also include a fine, not exceeding 10,000 dirhams, imposed on the offender for violations. Misdemeanors. The punishments may include jail sentence, penalty fine exceeding 10,000 dirhams, or even payment of blood money, Diyat, depending on the crime committed. Felony. This category includes the most serious types of federal crimes, and the punishment for felonies may include retaliation qisas punishment, imprisonment term that may include life imprisonment, and even imposing death penalty. Deportation can also be imposed if the offender is an expatriate. The long-term consequences of being convicted of a federal crime. The punishments imposed by the UAE court are the immediate consequences of being convicted under the criminal laws in the UAE. However, being convicted of a federal crime entails other long-term consequences for the offender. Deportation. As mentioned earlier in this video, deportation may be imposed on expatriates who are convicted of a felony in the UAE. This type of deportation is imposed under a court order against an expatriate who has been sentenced to a felony as per Article 126 of the UAE Penal Code. Article 126 states that if a foreigner is sentenced to a custodial sentence in a felony, an order for his expulsion from the state shall be rendered. For misdemeanors, the UAE courts may still impose a deportation order as an alternative penalty to a custodial punishment. As per Article 18 of Federal Decree Law No. 29 of 2021 on entry and residence of foreigners, an expatriate who has been deported from the UAE may not be allowed to return to the country unless with permission granted from the chairman of the Federal Authority of Identity, Citizenship, Customs, and Port Security. Permanent criminal record. A criminal record is maintained in the UAE for a person convicted of a crime. As per Article 2 of the Federal Law No. 36 of 1992 on rehabilitation and its amendments, a convict shall be rehabilitated and restored by the law if he or she is not convicted of a felony or misdemeanor that appears on their record within the following periods. 1. If the person is convicted of a felony and 5 years have lapsed as of the penalty execution, amnesty, or prescription. 2. If the person is convicted of a misdemeanor and 3 years have passed as of the execution of the penalty or amnesty, unless the convict recommits the misdemeanor or the penalty has lapsed due to the prescription, in which case the period shall be 5 years.
To receive more informative videos from our channel, click the subscribe button and press the bell icon. Please feel free to like, share, or leave a comment or question which will be answered in our next videos.